In a world that worships noise, confrontation, and instant retaliation, the man who masters the art of restraint is often mistaken for weak, until time reveals he was the only one thinking. Today, men are taught to stand on business, to fight, respond, confront, and assert dominance at every turn. We're told to never back down, never show weakness, never retreat. But those who live by the sword of ego die by it too. Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese strategist, warned us against this. He didn't glorify battle, he respected it. He knew that war, like life, is not won by brute force alone, but by discipline, calculation, and silence. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. These are not the words of a coward. They are the creed of a man whose victories outlast emotion, whose judgment outweighs pride. Let me tell you a story. Picture a young general on the battlefield, green with ambition, facing an army twice his size. His men look to him with wide eyes, waiting for orders. The air is thick with fear. Behind him, a seasoned advisor, a grey-haired veteran of a dozen wars, whispers, "Fall back." Not today. The young general, fueled by ego and fear of looking soft, charges anyway. The result is a massacre. That's the reality of pride unchecked by strategy. Contrast this with Zhuge Liang, the Chinese tactician known for winning battles without fighting them. One day, he stood alone in an empty fortress, knowing enemy troops were on the way. He didn't panic. He didn't fight. He ordered the gates wide open, sat atop the wall, and calmly played a tune on his zither. The opposing general, confused and terrified by this boldness, assumed it was a trap and retreated. That is the power of strategic withdrawal. You don't just retreat to avoid defeat, you retreat to control the tempo of the war. Sun Tzu understood something modern men forget. The battle you avoid can be more powerful than the battle you win. That's because withdrawal, when done correctly, is not weakness. It is warfare. It is the conscious choice to preserve resources, protect reputation, and prepare for a more impactful strike. But the average man is addicted to reaction. Someone disrespects him. He responds with rage. A woman pulls back emotionally. He chases, desperate to prove worth. A friend betrays him. He lashes out for revenge. All of these are impulsive, emotion-driven moves, and they all come at a cost. Emotional reaction is a tax on your empire. Every moment you spend defending your pride is a moment stolen from building your purpose. A man who understands strategic withdrawal has made peace with the fact that he is not here to win today. He is here to win forever. This applies not just to war, but to business, relationships, arguments, and even self-development. Walking away from a failing business deal is not a loss. It's a repositioning. Leaving a toxic woman who drains your spirit is not quitting. It's liberation. Refusing to argue with someone who lacks logic is not submission. It's dominance through detachment. The man who can walk away from the unnecessary will always have the strength to pursue the essential. Strategic withdrawal is not passive. It is surgical. It is the ability to see 10 moves ahead and understand that sometimes the quickest path to victory is to disappear, rebuild, and return when the field is yours. But this mindset demands something most men never develop: emotional control. To walk away with power, you must master the voice in your head screaming for revenge, attention, or validation. The man who cannot control his urge to prove himself becomes a puppet to every insult, temptation, and manipulation. He's the man who takes every challenge personally, fights every battle, and burns out long before the war is over. Sun Tzu warned of this too. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. In other words, the enemy will use your ego against you. And most men hand it over willingly. Strategic withdrawal is a discipline. A cold, calculated refusal to fight battles that do not serve the mission. It is knowing that silence is often louder than screaming, that absence creates more power than presence, and that composure is the most intimidating weapon in a chaotic world. It's not always glamorous. It won't get you applause, It won't get you immediate gratification, but in time, it will earn you victory on your terms. As the dust settles and the loud men fall, the quiet ones rise, because they moved with purpose, not pride. So the next time you are pulled into conflict, ask yourself, is this war necessary? Will this battle build me or bleed me? If the answer is no, walk away. Not because you're afraid, but because you've already calculated the cost, and you know your crown is not worth gambling on ego. That is the wisdom of Sun Tzu. That is the art of strategic withdrawal, and only the disciplined, focused, and mission-driven man will ever master it. To the untrained eye, walking away looks like surrender, but to the interceptor man, it is positioning, the act of bending time and space to your will. Strategic withdrawal is not about quitting, it is about choosing your battlefield. Sun Tzu wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Understand the gravity of that sentence. The highest level of mastery is not in winning every fight, but in becoming untouchable, in controlling the conditions so thoroughly that you make conflict irrelevant. And yet, in the modern world, we celebrate those who fight every battle. We glorify the man who responds to every insult, debates every troll, confronts every threat. But Sun Tzu would see such a man as predictable, emotional, and ultimately easy to defeat. Why? Because he lacks restraint. The man who cannot withdraw is a man who can be baited, and a baited man is a broken man waiting to happen. Look around. Our world is full of traps dressed as challenges. Arguments on the internet that lead nowhere. Emotional entanglements with women who feed on your chaos. Business opportunities that look promising but slowly bleed your time and soul. And too many men, out of pride, stay. They stay to prove something. They stay because they don't want to look weak. But every second they remain is a second lost. A man who withdraws with intention is a man who values his energy more than his image. He is not escaping. He is reallocating his power. He understands that you don't fight for everything, because not everything deserves your fire. In business, this is especially true. The man who pulls out of a negotiation, a market, or a project early is not running. He's realigning. Warren Buffett once said, "The difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything." Strategic withdrawal is the no that builds empires. When your mission is generational, you don't have time for emotional entanglement or ego wars. You don't chase validation, you chase leverage. That means sometimes you must disappear, regroup, re-strategize, and return when the environment favors you. Lions don't hunt in the heat of the day. They wait, they watch, and they strike with precision when the odds tip in their favor. The same principle applies to relationships. A man in control of his purpose will not stay where peace is impossible. He doesn't argue with a woman just to prove he's the man. He doesn't chase after emotional chaos to satisfy his insecurity. He withdraws, calmly, with finality, because he refuses to fight wars that wound him instead of sharpen him. His absence becomes his presence, his silence, his answer. In the alchemy of lust, you'll be taken deep into the ancient and forgotten discipline of sexual transmutation, a principle once reserved for monks, warriors, kings, and creators. That kind of man drives others insane. Why? Because you can't manipulate someone who has no need to be seen. He lives in mission, not reaction. His discipline is terrifying. And in that stillness, he becomes magnetic. The battlefield bends toward him because he chooses where and when to engage, and if he engages at all. This is not passivity. This is psychological warfare. Sun Tzu's brilliance was not that he won battles. It's that he chose which ones to ignore. His tactics were rooted in intelligence, deception, and foresight. He created illusions, shaped perceptions, and attacked not the body, but the will of the enemy. In life, this same strategy applies. You don't always attack people directly. You let their illusions collapse on their own. You exit quietly and let their drama devour them. You say nothing, and in that silence, they unravel. Strategic withdrawal turns your absence into a sword. The man who can walk away becomes a ghost, elusive, unshakable, dangerous. You can't defeat what you can't touch, and you can't manipulate a man who already let go. But this level of control requires a radical detachment from pride. Pride is the drug that keeps men fighting battles they should walk away from. Pride is the reason they argue, chase, and burn themselves out for petty victories. Sun Tzu's wisdom demands we kill the ego before it kills our progress. Because in the end, your enemies will not destroy you. Your need to be right will. Your refusal to let go will. And that is where strategic withdrawal becomes not just a tactic, but a spiritual discipline. It is the act of choosing clarity over chaos, peace over performance, and legacy over ego. So let this be your creed. Not every hill is worth dying on. Not every insult deserves your breath. Not every war must be fought to prove you are a man. Real power is in restraint. Real dominance is in detachment. The warrior who walks away is not always retreating. Sometimes he's reloading. Sometimes he's repositioning. And sometimes he's already won by not allowing himself to be pulled into a game designed to make him lose. As Sun Tzu taught us, the greatest victories are won without a single swing of the sword. The greatest men in history didn't just fight hard, they fought smart. So the next time life pulls at your ego, tempting you into another pointless battle, remember this. A man with a mission doesn't chase conflict, he shapes it. He doesn't fear walking away, he weaponizes it. And that is the art of strategic withdrawal. The modern man is bombarded with noise, digital conflict, emotional traps, status games, and the illusion that dominance means constant confrontation. He's told to grind harder, speak louder, prove more. But amid all this chaos, the man who masters strategic withdrawal becomes a rare breed, one who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, and doesn't explain. In a culture of hyperreaction, he is governed by calm precision. This man doesn't move out of fear or submission. He moves with purpose, patience, and power. The battlefield is not always a field of blood and weapons. Sometimes it's the comment section of social media. Sometimes it's a manipulative partner pulling your strings. Sometimes it's an opportunity disguised as a blessing that secretly steals your time. And in each of these moments, the question is the same. Will you react emotionally or respond strategically? Take the modern entrepreneur, for example. He's offered a business partnership that flatters his ego but violates his values. The money is tempting, the clout is shiny, but the man with foresight walks away. He doesn't tweet about it, he doesn't clap back. He simply vanishes, redirects his focus, and reinvests in his own empire. Months later, the flashy partner crashes and burns in a scandal. And the man who walked away is still standing, untouched, unbothered, and unbought. That is strategic withdrawal in its purest form. Or take the man in a toxic relationship. She plays games, she weaponizes silence, then floods him with emotion. Most men stay. They argue, they beg, they try to fix what was designed to fracture. But the man who has mastered restraint sees the game and opts out. He walks away, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. He understands that peace is not found in fixing broken people, but in refusing to be broken by them. He lets go, not because he lacks love, but because he values sanity, sovereignty, and self-respect. And in walking away, he regains his center. That's not retreat, that's ascension. Even in fitness and discipline, this principle applies. A man addicted to fast results may chase every new workout, diet, or supplement. But the strategic man withdraws from the noise, commits to a simple system, and dominates in silence. He doesn't flex for attention. He trains for war. His gains are not just physical, but spiritual. His body is the byproduct of a deeper mastery, one built on saying no to shortcuts, drama, and distraction. What Sun Tzu taught through warfare now echoes in every corner of modern life. Strategic withdrawal is not about abandoning the mission. It's about protecting it from sabotage. It's about knowing that the man who can't walk away is a slave to whatever he clings to. If you always need to win, to be heard, to be right, you are easily baited, easily controlled, and easily destroyed. But the man who walks away, he's unpredictable, he's unreadable, and therefore, he's unbeatable. So here is the final truth. Not every enemy deserves a duel. Not every fire deserves your flame. Not every loss is a defeat. Sometimes, stepping away is not the end of your power. It's the beginning of it. In silence, you grow. In distance, you gain vision. And in restraint, you become lethal. The modern man must now evolve beyond the reactive male who screams and swings. He must become the strategic force who vanishes when it serves him, strikes when it matters, and builds quietly while the world watches loudly. Be the man who can walk away from battles that don't serve you, people who don't respect you, and systems that don't align with your purpose. And when you return, because you will, return with vision, vengeance, and victory. That is not weakness, that is mastery. That is Sun Tzu's way, and that must now become yours. Thus remember, we are Indeceptor. Becoming Indeceptor is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. The Indeceptor Archive is the complete vault. Every lesson, every revelation, every psychological blueprint I've ever recorded, handcrafted to help you break chains, build discipline, and become undefeatable in a world built to deceive men. No ads, no algorithms, no distractions.